Today what we'll be discussing is Leetcode 27, which was the question's name. It's called remove element. It's very straightforward. What it asks you is it gives you a nums array and it gives you a value k or a value called val, right? What you have to do is iterate through the array called nums. You iterate through it and you find all occurrences of val over here, and you eliminate all of those occurrences of val. So if you say let's wait, no, I'll just explain the entire question first. So you eliminate all occurrences of val, and then you don't do it with the use of a separate array, right? What you do is instead you do it in place. In place means that you do not use any sort of an external array variable and stores things over there. You do it over here itself, right? And once that is done, you return all of the values, and you also return the nums value, not nums, but you return the number of occurrences of num, correct? So now once that is sorted, now that you understand what this means, let's move on to the actual question, and let's use an example to solve this question. Yeah, so the initial example that these guys have given us is 3, 2, 2 and 4. So let's think about it. We have a 3 and oh wait, also the value over here is 3. Okay, so right off the bat we see the 3 is right over here, and there's also a 3 actually. So you have 1 3 over here, 1 3 over here, and the value is 3. So the way that they want us to return this is that you see this 2 over here, you bring it to the first. You see this 2 over here, you bring it to the first, and you leave the remaining array blank. It does not matter whatever you put over here. Anything can work over here, right? So let me just put asterisk so they hold everything. So this is what they want you to return. They don't want a particular vector type. They want basically the number of occurrences, and that, let's say it is denoted by n, so n will be equal to 2 over here, correct? Now let's just go ahead and look at another example to make it better and more clearer. I'll retain this. Yeah, okay. The other example they've used is 0 1 2 2 3 0 4 and 2. What do we do over here? We go ahead and let's see what is the value over here. Your value is equal to 2. So now where's 2? I can see it here, I can see it here, and I can see it here. So if I had to basically just pick all of the non 2 values, these would be it. So if I return an array with 0 1 3 0 4, this would be a perfectly normal answer, and your n value would be 5, correct? So that is one way to go about this. How will we do this? So the solution, I won't beat around the bush regarding this. The solution is very, very straightforward. What all you have to do is you have 2 pointers, okay? So let's just say they are I and j. So you initialize them obviously over here with I and j over here, and you iterate them all across. Now what does j do? J, it stops when k value is seen. Okay, what does this do? It stays. So let's just use an example over here. You have 2 out here, right? So you your I, it iterates with j otherwise. Let's say I is coming here, j is coming here. It's a non k value, it's a non 2 value, so it's fine. But over here things change. Why? Because you see a 2 over here, and that's equal to the val that we're looking for. We need to eliminate this motherfucker. How do we do that? We keep j fixed and we iterate I across, right, until you find a non 2 val. Okay, so iterating I, you come across and you reach 3, and you see that 3 is a non 2 val. So what you do is you replace these two, correct? You replace these two, and basically now this becomes a 3 and this becomes a 2, correct? So now your array looks somewhat like 0 1 2 wait, let's just use this 0 1 2 no 3 2 2 0 4 2. Okay, so that becomes your new array. Now what do you do with your j? You increment it. Now what do you do with I? You increment it. Now you notice again that this is a non-2 value, and you will notice that the j values will always keep going and reaching non-2 values unless all of the values over here are non-2 values, correct? So basically j will always look at 2 values, not non-2 values, 2 values instead. And that is how we will be proceeding from here. And so all we had to do was look for these 2 values and replace them with the nearest non-2 value. So again this 0 comes over here and your 2 gets cut off and gets replaced by 0, and this becomes a 2, correct? Now notice our earlier 3 is now a 2, correct? So next time we see this, we can replace it over here and this becomes 4, right? And again j increments, I increments, but now all of the values that you see over here, these are all 2 2 and 2, right? So you have 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, and so ultimately you have your solution like this. This becomes your final answer. And so that's all we're going to do. We're going to return 0 1 3 0 4, but notice one thing, we also had to return the number of non-k values, right? So the number of non-k values has ended up with j over here. Look at the indexing 0 1 2 3 4 5. You have 5 with the jth index and you have 5 non-k values, and that is what will be returned. So ultimately the j value is what gets returned. Just go ahead and write an algorithm for this. So let's first declare int I is equal to, so you have your function, what is it called? What's the name of this thing? It's called remove element. Okay, so let's go ahead and just make a function called remove, and it takes an array called nums and it gives you the k value, correct? So now let's just firstly initiate the variables. So you have your I is equal to 0, okay, and you have your j is equal to 0, and I guess yeah, that's it. So now you say while I is less than nums dot size. Also these algorithms will kind of be algorithmic, but at the same time they will find a syntax similar to C++ because I'm an idiot and I'm not an expert, right? So once that is done, you have your I value like this. So nums dot size, so we'll write a little neater next time, yeah. And what do you do then? You check iteratively like you did over here for each of those values, correct? So you check iteratively, you go across all of these and you check what if nums of I is equal to val or is equal to k. What happens then? You increment the I value, correct? You increment the I value and keep j where it was, correct? And then you keep an else clause, correct? You have an else clause, and which means that nums of I is not equal to k, right? Because this is a free value. Now your free values, all you have to do is replace and swap them. So how do you swap them? You say nums of j is equal to nums of I, and your nums of I, we honestly really don't care because the variable that will keep checking for the positive value, this replacing them with 2 over here was what I did for maintaining clarity, but you don't necessarily have to do that because the variable that is checking for all of these things, it will always keep incrementing further and further and further. So the values that j sees will always be the ones that have been replaced, correct? I'm sorry about that. And yeah, so the values that j replaces will be the ones that are seen over here. And so you can go ahead and say that nums of I is equal to val, right? Or you can just ignore this step completely. Also you will this time increment j and increment I, all of these, right? Let me just close this, and what will you be returning ultimately? You will be returning the j value, correct? So this ultimately is our algorithm. Thank you for watching.